Hello and welcome everyone to the Superintendent Effect, a podcast where we highlight strong leaders building strong communities. I'm Ann Brown, President and CEO of the Cook Center for Human Connection, and I'm your host for today's show. I'm so excited to be joined by Dr. Gillian Chapman, Superintendent of Blue Valley Unified School District in Kansas. Welcome and thanks for being with us today, Gillian.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to reconnect with you, Ann. It's been a long time since I've gotten to see you.
I know it has been. I'm looking forward to times that we'll get to spend together in the future. So you've made a big move since I've talked to you last. You've moved from Jackson Hole, Wyoming to Blue Valley Unified in Kansas. Where in Kansas are you exactly?
So Blue Valley is located in Johnson County, which is in the northeast part of Kansas. Most people refer to it as Kansas City. You know, people that are Chiefs fans, which I'm sure there are a lot of them out there, will be interested to know that the stadium, which is in Kansas City, Missouri, has made the commitment to relocate to Johnson County, Kansas. So that's huge, huge news for us. And Blue Valley School District is in a large area. It used to be more of a suburban, but now it's really turned urban. There are 6 other public school districts in Johnson County, and all 6 of us combined serve a total of about 98,000 public school students. And Blue Valley has about 22,000 public students.
Oh, wow. Well, that's exciting. That's big news. Do you already do some partnerships with the Chiefs at all for the kids?
Yes. And really, that's one of the things that I think has made this move pretty interesting and better in some ways. Because when I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we were the only school district in Teton County. And so collaboration meant going over a mountain pass or several hours of driving. And while there were so many similarities and things that did connect us geographically, and really you were definitely an island on your own. And here we do collaborate quite a bit. I in Jackson Hole, I never ever had a snow day or an inclement weather day. I think in the 10 years I was there, we had 1 2-hour delayed start and 1 snow day because it was blizzard conditions and minus 25 degrees and the buses wouldn't start. And that was the only snow day that they'd ever had in like 25 years. And so it was super popular or unpopular, depending on who you asked. But you were making that decision on your own with your bus company and with the people in the community. Here, we have way more frequent inclement weather days. And that decision is made by all of the superintendents in Johnson County. So when you get the hate mail, or the praise, you're in it together, and it's not a decision that you're making in isolation as much because it's sometimes literally a neighborhood, a street will divide if you attend another school district versus Blue Valley. So we are truly so much more connected, and I think that's a good thing.
I mean, that sounds awesome. I have to tell you, from a snow day perspective, I'm sure your snow day is you're making a decision on 1 or 2 inches, and in Jackson probably it was a 4-foot day when you did
Yes.
that one day that you had a delay.
Yes, we did. We had an earlier day, like in I think early December, and it was on a Sunday and calling for like 3 inches, and I was like, "Well, isn't that cute?" Okay, fine, whatever. So I hop on the call, and I was fully expecting to be like, "We're having school, no problem." So I did. We did have school on Monday, and it turned out to be way worse than I thought. And I live kind of in a hilly neighborhood. The difference is they don't treat the roads. But I was on my way home, and I had, been bombarded throughout the day with how unsafe and how thoughtless of me, and all the choice words that parents and students who, new drivers, and suddenly they're fearing for their lives, much like how I feel when I'm leaving the parking lot at dismissal time with all the drivers. But in any event, I was thinking to myself, if I slide into a ditch or get in an accident, I am telling no one.
Right.
So, but the next day we did have a 2-hour delay because it warmed up enough and melted and then refroze. And so we needed the extra time because they really don't treat the roads the way they do
in
in
mountain
your part of
states.
the country and where I used to be. So,
Well, it is. I have a Jackson story when my kids were ski racing and it was 25 below, as you said, and the lifts had to warm up. It had to warm up to 15 below for the lifts to run.
yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a different world. Well, Gillian, the thing I know about Blue Valley is something I learned before you were ever superintendent when I had a chance to visit your CAPS program, your Center for Applied Professional Studies that I'll let you explain what it does for kids, but it's an amazing program. And then we replicated it in the Park City School District many years ago.
Yes. So CAPS is just this really phenomenal opportunity where students get to connect with business partners and industries and really advance their future careers. We have students that are earning industry certifications, apprenticeships, and that kind of thing, but it's really professional studies, marketing, business, health careers, engineering, and it's funny. I was touring in Park City School District not that long ago, and they have CAPS in the middle of their building. And I teased the superintendent at that point, and I was like, "Oh, this is a Blue Valley. This is a Kansas thing. It started in Blue Valley in Kansas, and like you could have at least changed the name." Well, I didn't realize that in the time that CAPS had started here in Blue Valley, that it became a network. And so I was laughing about that when I moved here to Blue Valley, and I was talking to the director of it, and he goes, "Well, yeah, they have the same name. They have to." And he's like, "It's now a network. It's a national network."
Yeah.
And so that was really funny. I was like, "Oh, well, that's embarrassing." But here I was teasing her for stealing the name and the concept, and that's what,
That was the point.
that was the point. But it's truly remarkable. And one of the things that is kind of the one of the better things about Blue Valley is this long history of producing kids, but that connection with industry for real world experiences. And students are solving problems and connecting with these experts across the area and the industry. And it's just so incredible to see what they're doing with that. And one of the students, I mean, housing is a problem here. I never thought I'd say that when I moved back to Kansas, but housing and affordable housing is a significant issue. Our teachers and our staff can't afford to live in the community. The average home price here in the Blue Valley School District is 750,000,
Wow.
which is double what it is in neighboring communities. And so, you know, a young career educator starting out just can't afford to live here, our drivers and those kinds of things. So one of the students in the engineering and the architectural program is working on his project with a local engineer on staff housing. And so he's got an architect firm, an engineering firm that he's partnering with. And now every time that I go to a meeting in the county with Habitat, with, you know, whomever, he's coming with me and he's dressed professionally and, you know, he's a senior and this is, I mean, he's going to be going into college next year with this as his field of study. And what an incredible opportunity to learn. It's not just the building or the design or the concept, but all the people that you have to partner with. And so CAPS it's really exciting that it started in Blue Valley, gosh, probably 25 years ago. It's a beautiful facility. It looks like a high-end office space. And I think it's one of the drivers too of why this area is getting some of these huge businesses to move in this area of Kansas City, besides the Chiefs, and that's going to bring, you know, huge economic development. But there's a Panasonic battery plant nearby, and that's been a huge attraction. And then Fiserv, which is a finance tech company, they're moving here and right not very far away, and they'll have 2,000 really substantial jobs in industry. So the CAPS network continues to be kind of a bright spot in that because these folks want their kids to be involved. They want to be involved in the community. And the business partners have a lot of pride about their students having gone through CAPS.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. Do you have just one high school there, or do you have multiple high schools?
No, we have 5 high schools. We have CAPS, and then we have Blue Valley Academy, which is more of an alternative program. And then we have a separate center for students that need additional time or work skills development. So we also have a separate space for that.
Oh, wow. So CAPS is its own high school.
It is, well, it's a separate building, and then students from all the high schools, 5 high schools, they come over for either the morning or the afternoon session, and they have a 3-hour block of time at CAPS. So they spend half their day at their home high school and half the day at CAPS.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's exciting. What other cool things are going on in Blue Valley?
Well, Blue Valley is the #1 school district in Kansas, and
Woohoo.
they're nationally ranked, or we're nationally ranked in the top 5%. And that is really just an incredible, it's incredible bragging rights. And really highlights the hard work of the Blue Valley community in supporting public schools. And we also have a significant special education population, and special education is not fully funded in Kansas. So it's an $18 million transfer from our general fund to provide the services that we do. And we have this unique population because of all the medical specialties and services in the Kansas City area. Families do move to Blue Valley, one, because it's the best school district in the state and the incredible opportunities like CAPS. And then a lot of families will move to Blue Valley because of the special education services and just the number of exceptional services that we provide for our students in a general ed setting is pretty remarkable. So that's something that we're really proud about. And then, of course, all the activities and access to things. We serve 185 different languages of families here in this community, and that's growing pretty rapidly as well. And then the students and the things that they are accomplishing and what our staff accomplish, and not just awards locally, but nationally. I mean, there's just no doubt that it's an exceptional school district. And one of the main factors that creates an exceptional school district is having a school board that really focuses on, yes, of course, we have to pay bills. And yes, the school board works on policies, and they evaluate and provide feedback to the superintendent. I used to say hire and fire the superintendent, but that has such a negative connotation. So I focus on provide feedback to the superintendent. But the Blue Valley School Board really takes their leadership role to heart. And like many dedicated school boards across the country, but the Blue Valley School Board knows their work and their focus on education and helping every single one of our students grow and exceed. That culture and that tone is set from the Board of Education. And so as you watch our board meetings and you see how our board spends their time focusing on education and achievement and supporting students so they can realize their hopes and their dreams and their goals, and less so on approving the new roof or talking about what kind of roof there shall be. There shall be a roof, and then they turn it over to the district to figure it out. They allocate the funds and they trust the district to carry out those. So it's an exceptional district because of all those factors.
Well, I love that. And I mean, I love the mutual respect between you and the board for you. And so, how did they find you? How did you make this move from Jackson to Kansas?
Well, Blue Valley in the past has not hired an external candidate. So they've had this long-standing, years of success because they've had a constant ability to grow their own superintendent. I was familiar with the Blue Valley. Of course, I used to be in a neighboring school district, always at rival and always trying to be and offer the same or offer better or different or whatever because I was in a neighboring school district. And so when I left that district and moved to Jackson in 2015, it was like, oh, great, I don't have my nemesis anymore. So I was familiar with the area and with Blue Valley. It's the name of a district that many people recognize because of excellence or because of CAPS or just other connections. So one of the consultants called and said, hey, we're doing a search in Blue Valley. I know you're familiar with the area. Do you know anybody and that might be interested? And better yet, might you be interested? I wasn't at the time. In fact, I was actually traveling and I was at Deloitte when I got this call and the initial inquiry. So I thought, I'm not interested. And then about that time, my parents live here and they're elderly, and it had been a particularly rough week. And I thought, there's no hurt in applying for this job. It's a closed search, so nobody would be the wiser. And I didn't even tell my parents until I actually thought I had a shot at it because I didn't want them to get their hopes up. I thought, I've always learned something when prepping for an interview, and I'm going to learn something. And I'm going to see a different way of doing things, and I also was good friends with my predecessor here in Blue Valley. So I didn't even call her and ask her about it because it was a closed search and I didn't want her to put her in an awkward position. In any event, I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to give it a go. And so here I am.
Wow. Well, they're lucky to have you. I know in Jackson, and I'm sure in Blue Valley as well, mental health was one of your top concerns, the mental health of your students and your staff. And, tell me how you're caring for them from a mental health perspective.
Um, it has been a continual effort. And it was in Jackson, it was one of the things that I spent, gosh, just a tremendous amount of time and effort because you could see the challenges that we were facing. And because it was a much smaller school district, I think it felt in a much smaller community, it felt like I didn't have more of a pulse on some of the challenges, the personal challenges that folks were having. This is a bigger community, but the challenges are still there. And it looks and feels differently. I would say that moving here, it seems like COVID was the beginning of kind of unraveling some of the mental health challenges that children, community members, parents, and staff members have. So we're continuing that effort as I get to know this community. We have different resources here than we had in other states, and how are they funded? And I'm continuing to stay engaged and focused on it as I learn what do we currently have and where are the holes. And much of that has to do with connecting with community partners and organizations that are experts in this work and finding ways to open the doors and provide more access for our students and our staff members to reach out and have a wide swath of resources at their fingertips. So the Cook Center was a huge part of that in Jackson, and it's something that we're continuing here. The one thing that I would say has taken me by a little bit of surprise is it was a lot easier to be nimble with a smaller school district. And, it feels like in a smaller school district, it's like I was the captain of a small ski boat and I could easily switch. And, if someone was tubing behind me, I could easily switch and, go faster or slower to toss them off the tube, right? It makes it a lot of fun. This is more like a barge and it goes really slowly. And it's really hard to turn a barge because there's so many more things to consider and that kind of thing. So, and more people to be involved instead of just one person, or a couple of people. So, but I'm really looking forward to opportunities where we can connect families to the resources. And some of my favorite resources at the Cook Center, I am sharing widely and often just the resources that are available 24/7 because as you know, crises and emergencies as a parent, as a student, as an educator, they just don't happen during the normal time. And then connecting with someone to provide the support you need in an emergency is really, really hard. And I think it just amplifies it even more. So the connection with Cook Center has been huge for not only Jackson and the work they're still continuing to do, but we'll be here as well. And we're in conversations about how we can get it done. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to hosting some of the webinars in the evening. I thought those were some of the most impactful things that we did as well. And I always participated in them and appreciated that it wasn't like I had the anonymity of my computer, so no one knew I was on, but I was engaging with the content and able to ask questions and to share, yep, I stress out about this. Yep, I worry about that. Yep, as a parent, this is one of the biggest things I worry about. And I could see that other people did too. And so it like made it okay. And it felt like, oh, I'm not alone. So it's like this incredible support group, but I knew there were people in the community that were thinking and feeling the same thing and just how to process that. So mental health, I believe, connection and human connection and relationships are the ways that we can dig out of the hole of COVID. And then the other thing that I think is really valuable, the use of technology was big during COVID, and I'm glad we had it available. But now I think we're at a point here in Blue Valley where we're actually maybe turning that dial back just a little bit. And instead of saying we're going to, use our devices to create and do all this work, instead we're shifting the focus to be, again, valuing that human connection and that face to face. We're still talking about AI. We're still using devices. We're still doing all those things, but we know the value of human connection, and that is at the heart of your work. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those things move forward here in Blue Valley, because I know what it did for us in Jackson. And I also just love the component that you've added for teachers, because that is another thing. Our staff are just tired, they're worn out, and sometimes you just need a professional to talk education with you without judgment and to understand the stress that you have every single day. So super fan of yours personally, but also of the Cook Center, and just grateful for everything that you all do for school districts across the country in a cost-effective manner and with so much expertise, because it's just an expertise that we don't have at our fingertips. So
Well,
that's what I think is headed our way in Blue Valley.
All right. Well, that's exciting, but thank you. Yeah, I think the word that popped into my head was thought partner. Sometimes educators just need that thought partner that can work through an idea or an issue or whatever. So thank you. Thanks for all of the great partnership we've had over time. Normally I do this a little earlier in the program, but I'd love to hear your path to the superintendency. What have been your stops along the way?
Yeah, I've pretty much done all the jobs. I started out as a para and a teacher. I started as a para and a substitute, actually. At the time in the 92, 93, it was really hard to find a teaching job. I was a language teacher, and so it was really hard to find a teaching job. Lots of candidates, not a lot of openings. So I started out as a para in a behavior disorder classroom, and then just kind of worked my way to being a middle school teacher, which was the absolute, I loved teaching middle school, and they're kind of my people. And then high school teacher and assistant principal and all those things, middle school principal, and then district office leadership work. So I've basically run all the gamut there, and decided that, I loved being a teacher and being around kids. And, so it's like, so why do I want to do something different? And really just having the opportunity to have more influence and provide more support. I see myself as somebody that gets things done efficiently and hopefully effectively but also recognizing we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with the most important people in the lives of our families and our community members, and those are children. And really, it is our future. So I thought I would have a bigger opportunity to influence. Yet I think something that has remained true to me is I spend a lot of time with kids, and it's harder, especially the bigger school district, to do that. But it's hard for me to make decisions if I'm not interacting with kids, if I'm not interacting with the staff, if I don't understand what the challenges are in the community. I can't make good decisions. So I do intentionally put myself in times and places to establish meaningful relationships with kids. And I think that's really the heart of my pathway to becoming a superintendent. It wasn't really something that I had aspired to do, but at every opportunity, I think you have to stretch yourself and grow and say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to partner with you to find them and to recognize that we all want what's best for kids. And the more we can connect together, that is what is going to move the needle instead of some of the divisive things that I think we're seeing across our country right now.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, what would your advice be for a new superintendent? But I think that's the advice that any new superintendent could use is never forget, who you're doing this for and spend time with the kids and the staff. That's amazing that you just don't lose that. And you've been a superintendent now 4 different times.
This is I was assistant superintendent, so this is my second superintendency.
Oh, okay.
I would say moving districts, for advice, I would give this advice to anyone. I go to now in this big district, 22,000 kids, but I'm in every building every month. And by the end of the school year, I will have been in hopefully at least every classroom a couple of times. So I can't hit all the classrooms at these, schools with 1,800 kids, but that is huge because that's the best way for me to establish relationships. Your relationships aren't established with me standing on stage at graduation. They're established with those interactions and attending events. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I could be doing so much more in my office, but I'm getting so much more done with the face-to-face interactions. And tell me more. And how would you change that? And what do you love? What should I never even consider looking at? I think the other big question I like to ask people is, who's helped you? And are you comfortable with me recognizing them and pulling on them to provide support in some other areas? Because we all need that kind of support and attention. So advice is be in those classrooms. It matters.
I agree. I remember when I did teach, I had two things. As one of them was I had a principal who every day walked through every classroom and he would say some variation of, boys and girls, do you know how lucky you are to have Mrs. Brown as your teacher?
Yeah.
And I don't know how he did it 180 times, but every time he'd walk in my classroom, he'd be in there for 15 seconds, say something wonderful, and walk out. And as a teacher, it just made me want to teach and keep going and feel good about what I was doing. But to your point as the superintendent, and we were about that same size district. I taught in Salt Lake District. It was about 25,000. And I did have the superintendent. Her name was Dr. Robles. And she was in my classroom at least 1 or 2 times. And at the time, I was a new young teacher, so I didn't even understand how valuable that was. Like, listening to you say it, I could just remember those feelings. And I wasn't fearful when they walked in. I was just proud when they walked in.
Yes.
So that was great. Hey, what's one thing people don't know about you?
I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. But I think that helps me be a better leader because I put myself in those positions and sometimes I just need private reflection time. I hate icebreakers. I know why they're important, but I don't like them. And I don't like them because, I like to get stuff done and I don't have time for that. And if I'm going to a conference or whatever, I'm going because I want the expert or the person who's been doing it to tell me what to do. And I'll reflect on it later. So I think I'm an introvert. I know when I have to be on, but I also know that I have to have quiet time to reflect before I can really engage. And so people always say, oh, you're not shy. shy and introvert
Yeah.
they're not the same thing. I'm not necessarily shy, but I do need that recharge time. So I find little ways to do it.
There's a great book called Quiet, and it
Yes.
talks about, yeah, I'm also an introvert, even though I'm running a podcast, but I am. And the way Quiet defines it is how you get your energy. And so do you get
Yes.
your energy from quiet, or do you get your energy from, I like to say chaos, but it probably means,
Yes.
others' energy. I understand you completely when it comes to that. So you need it all, but I do find that I need that quiet maybe more than some others in my life have needed that.
Yeah.
What gives you hope for the future?
Well, sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in the media and just some of the terrible things that are happening, and those things used to happen not here. It was somewhere else, right? But it's happening here. And so I think some of the things that give me hope is when I was in buildings this morning and I was turned the corner, and these two very young children were standing there talking, and they were giggling away. And as I got closer, I could hear them laughing about how they brush their teeth every day. and, and that gave me hope. I don't know why, but it's like they were laughing and so much joy and talking about something so silly. And then, it happened to be sort of morning time at this particular school, and they were playing. They were engaged in, they got to choose what they wanted to do, but they were playing, and it wasn't on a device. And so that's hopeful to me that we are returning to that sense of play and relationships and the things that our kids are thinking about and doing. It's so incredible. I have no worries about our future and being led by the kids that we have in our schools today. I'm more worried about our current leadership in all facets, that they are going to inherit something that hopefully will be salvageable with their skill set, because our current generation of kids, they're remarkable. They're going to be great. It's just, I'm worried about what we're leaving them.
Fair. That's fair. Well, Dr. Chapman, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And Blue Valley is very lucky to have you being a new strong leader in their community and building the future for our kids. So thank you so much.